What Salinger did, and we will argue brilliantly, was take his emerging juvenile male angst, frustration, anger, competition, and testosterone, and connect it internally to murder. In this, Holden's gun, to accompany his deer or duck hunting hat, he always carries with him in his pants. His constant frustration with male-on-male aggression. Have you ever seen young guys wrestling and getting overly excited like two bucks, sizing each other up on a mat? Or his inadequacies with women of all ages throughout the book. Failure after failure, from elderly Mrs. Spencer to his 10-year-old sister, is always connected in the programming with death. Arousal and sexual energy need a release. If you are too immature or stupid yet to see it, never fear. You have to look no further than the text itself for your proof. Due to our immaturity, we do not teach adolescents today that human beings, and really all of God's creation, enter an inner altered state as arousal arises. Women speak of this as going into heat, and one can hear female cats going through this some nights outside your window. Human women know that such times can be emotionally very difficult to manage. Human males find their experience to be a mixture of hyperfocus and some amount of robotization that can be very difficult to shut down once it is turned on.
I'm a mechanical boy, like a mechanical toy. That's because I'm a mechanical boy.
Male arousal is designed to climax with a various and as sundry parts are timed to work in an exact order. In fact, males reach a point where they lose control, and once that moment is reached, the outcome is inevitable. There is even a split second where they tense and freeze, guaranteeing the bullet will hit its mark. This is called the little death in the occult, and when such an act is displayed on an altar before a coven, the moment a man freezes, his little death is celebrated by the naked gawking wizards and witches. These altered internal states and their physical outward manifestations make up what they lustfully refer to as sex magic. Sex is like a drug. Drugs are sorcery in the occult. No adult needs this explained to them. But their teenage children do. What The Catcher in the Rye teaches boys particularly, and broken occult males specifically, is that their inner sodomy rage, male aggression, altered state arousal, and building robotization can climax not in testicular ejaculation from their built-in flesh rifle, but with a metal bullet from an actual gun. The very same physical robotization that takes over males rhythmically, and in which they eventually reach a point of no return, can explode in murder, making the freeze before the little death a freezing of the mind as the fist pulls the metal trigger. This is the purpose of the trauma trancing and the horror hypnosis. It is no coincidence that robo-assassins, Timothy McVeigh, Sirhan, Lee Harvey Oswald, Mark David Chapman, John Hinckley, and of course John Wilkes Booth. No, I was just waiting to see if you were awake. They all considered The Catcher in the Rye, except for John Wilkes Booth. That was a joke, but he was a member of the Illuminati. All of these considered The Catcher in the Rye as being the book that intimately applied to them. Well, we will never know exactly what Jerome David Salinger felt about this. It is impossible to deny from history that prominent assassins have considered it profoundly influential on them. It is also impossible to deny the unrelenting pattern of clever hypno-triggers, double entendres, and subconscious repetitive logic that sexual pressure in hormonal males is to be released through ejaculatory gunfire. The rest is open for debate. All of these were tests for a coming day when the occult intends to trigger their programmed to bring about Armageddon on their terms.
Basically, at the time, I was teaching at a Christian school. I was also very involved in military in San Diego. In fact, the group has a lot of military orientation, and so a lot of times I would take the kids to their area. There's an area where the kids would go and change. They had a room, and we would have like baskets of clothes, and we'd change our clothing. You'd take out your clothing, it had your name on it, and put on your uniform or whatever you wore that night. And the kids would wear these little miniature military uniforms. They would go out and do their training exercises. They were learning how to march, how to shoot. All kids in Illuminati at least know how to take apart a gun, put it together, and shoot with deadly accuracy by the age of 8 years old. I was normally supervising the younger trainers. They would be doing it, and I would be there watching and making sure they did it correctly. I can tell you that in San Diego, 20% of the active members of the group were active military. As I know, these people aren't always honest or trustworthy. They are deceptive. These are not stupid people.
They would have done it already, but Americans still own too many guns and are not afraid to defend their constitutional rights. Thus, guns and the police have got to go, and the Constitution has to be legally undone, such as George Bush did with the Patriot Act. I do have a question, though. If we have proof that men like George Soros are paying people to invade our nation and riot in our streets, why haven't we frozen all his assets and arrested men like him as homegrown terrorists? We blew Randy Weaver's wife away for so much less. We executed Saddam and Osama. Why does Jewish Soros get to do whatever he wants in our streets? Or how about this? Former President Obama has finally admitted that he was not born on American soil.
Now, this isn't where I was born. I was born in Kenya.
And the Constitution firmly states that only one born on United States soil can be president.
And just to be clear, I know where my birth certificate is, but a lot of people don't.
Since we now know that he was illegally elected.
3 years ago, I visited Kenya as the first sitting American president to come from Kenya.
Why have we not voided every bill that he signed?
And of course, I'm the first Kenyan American to be president of the United States.
Constitutionally, he committed fraud every time he signed legislation.
Yeah, I was not born in Hawaii. I wasn't born in the United States of America. I come from Kenya.
Does that not make every bill he signed null and void under our law?
Now, this isn't where I was born. I was born in Kenya.
The Constitution is the supreme law in the land. If you have been paying attention, you already know the answer.
Never waste a good crisis.
The Constitution must be undermined before you and I can be returned to slavery through Armageddon.
Rule Britannia, Britannia, rule the waves. Britons never, never, never shall be slaves.